Chapter 1384. 1384 Chapter 1384 Great Battle against Hai Pengtian. He realized that Lu Ming's combat strength had improved compared to before. In fact, that was indeed the case. Now, Lu Ming's pure spirit body had been cultivated to perfection. Furthermore, the embryonic form of the chaos domain was getting bigger and bigger. The combat strength of his main body had indeed improved greatly compared to before. Right now, the combat strength of Lu Ming's main body could be said to have reached a peak that was difficult to improve. The overlords of the four great divine palaces had ugly expressions on their faces. They could not probe Lu Ming's actual situation by sending these people to the battlefield. If they wanted to find out the truth, they had to send out a fourth-level martial royal realm expert. However, who among the overlords at the Lever 4 martial royal realm was willing to take the risk? "I'll make my move." After a while, Hai Pengtian spoke. He had a deep hatred for Lu Ming, and he could not wait to tear Lu Ming into pieces. Bang! Bang! Hai Pengtian stepped forward. The powerful aura of the fourth-level martial emperor realm was fully released. At the same time, a pair of golden wings appeared on his back, and the sharp energy cut open the space. "Hai Pengtian, that's good. Today, I'll send you to accompany your two sons and your second brother." Lu Ming's voice was heard from the 9 dragons. "Little bastard, I'll first cripple your cultivation and make you wish you were dead," said Hai Pengtian. The wings on his back flapped and his figure disappeared as he pounced towards Lu Ming. Kai Kai! A pair of golden wings, like 2 extremely sharp blades, slashed at the 9 dragons. Buzz! Lu Ming used his spiritual consciousness to control the dragon vein sword and blocked one of the sharp edges. At the same time, he used 9 dragon's steps to blast another sharp edge. Clang! Boom! With a few rumbles, the 9 dragons' bodies trembled violently. They stepped on the void and retreated. Kill! Hai Pengtian shouted coldly and continued to charge at Lu Ming. Beams of sharp light poured toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming tried his best to resist, but he was still at a disadvantage. He was completely outmatched. The 9 dragons' bodies were covered with cracks. The 4th level of the martial emperor realm was much stronger than the 3rd level. Lu Ming was no match for him. Buzz! Suddenly, a figure rushed out of the 9 dragons. Second body inscription. Ming Lian waved his hand, and 5 phoenix feather flying swords pierced through the void, heading towards Hai Pengtian. At the same time, the Myriad formation diagram flew out, and endless great formations enveloped Hai Pengtian. Clang! Clang! Hai Pengtian's golden wings flapped, knocking away the 5 phoenix feather flying swords and destroying a large area of the formation. The 9 dragons roared in anger, and together with Ming Lian's second body, they charged towards Hai Pengtian. The two of them began a great battle. Although Lu Ming was still at a disadvantage, the main body and secondary body cooperated seamlessly and he could barely resist the attacks. This Lu Ming is really a genius. Even though they were enemies, a hegemon-level character couldn't help but sigh. That's right. I don't know what kind of secret technique this kid is cultivating. His clone is a pure inscriber and has reached the Emperor realm. Unbelievable. Could it be a powerful puppet technique? The various hegemons spoke. With their knowledge, it was naturally impossible for them to know about the secret skill of Twin, so they all made guesses. Since we've already offended him, we can't let him live. At the very least, we have to cripple his cultivation at any cost. Wang Sheng opened his mouth. His heart was somewhat cold. Lu Ming's talent was too terrifying. If they let him escape, he would be their nightmare when he grew up. The other overlords all nodded. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Hai Pengtian had exchanged dozens of moves. "How Pengtian, is this all you've got? How can you avenge your son?" Lu Ming mocked and ridiculed as he fought. "Damn it!" Hai Pengtian roared in his heart. He was shocked. He had already tried his best, but he still could not take down Lu Ming. Although his cultivation was only at the early stage of the Lever 4 martial royal realm and his combat strength was considered weak among the Lever 4 martial royal realm experts, it was not difficult for him to kill a Lever 3 martial royal realm expert. However, he could not take down a young junior even after a long time. He started to feel a little anxious. Now is the time. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. The 9 dragons' bloodline suddenly collapsed, revealing Lu Ming's true form. Primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. Lu Ming's hands formed seals rapidly. Boom. In the sky, a huge seal formed. It looked like the imperial jade seal used by emperors in the mortal world, but it was as large as a mountain. On it, chaotic light permeated. This was the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. The primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal descended from the sky and pressed down on Hai Pengtian. Its terrifying power caused Hai Pengtian's expression to change. Block it! Hai Pengtian shouted. The pair of golden wings on his back flapped rapidly, forming an infinite sharp chi that blasted toward the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. Boom! Finally, the primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal and Hai Pengtian's attack collided. At this moment, Hai Pengtian's expression changed. The attacks he had sent out were constantly exploding and disappearing. The Chaos Empyrean Seal was like a divine mountain from the primordial era, suppressing everything. Boom! In the end, Hai Pengtian's attack was defeated, and the primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal landed on Hai Pengtian's body. Hai Pengtian's body trembled violently as he screamed. His body fell to the ground as blood spurted out of his mouth. Hai Pengtian was no match for the primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal and suffered heavy injuries. Kill. At this moment, Ming Lian seized the opportunity and charged towards Hai Pengtian. The million formation illustration covered Hai Pengtian, and at the same time, 5 phoenix-feathered flying swords pierced through Hai Pengtian's 5 vital points. Hai Pengtian tried his best to resist, but he had just been struck by the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. His breath had not calmed down, and his whole body was in pain as if it was being torn apart. He could not exert much combat power at all. He tried his best to resist, but his body was still pierced by the 2 phoenix feather flying swords, almost cutting his body apart. Break. In the end, a piercing golden light bloomed. One of Hai Pengtian's wings exploded, forming a terrifying storm that tore through the seal of the Ming Lian clone. He rushed out and flew into the group of people from the South God Palace. He continuously spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, his face as pale as paper. The crowd gasped. A 4th-level martial royal realm overlord had almost been killed by Lu Ming. It was too shocking. What a pity. Lu Ming sighed to himself. His combat strength was still insufficient after all. He had suddenly used the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal just now, but he had not been able to kill Hai Pengtian. If CROC World had been a little more careful, it would have been even harder to kill. His strength was still a little lacking compared to a Lever 4 martial royal realm expert. The consumption of true essence is truly terrifying. Lu Ming sighed. A huge pile of raw gemstones appeared. Lu Ming activated his 9-dragon bloodline to devour the raw gemstones and refine them. The primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal had consumed nearly 50% of Lu Ming's quintessential essence. In other words, given Lu Ming's essential core, he could only use the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal twice before his essential core was exhausted. What do we do now? A hegemon-level figure spoke. Even Hai Pengtian could not find out if Lu Ming had set up a killing formation here. What would happen next? We'll be able to probe it out if we send a few more people. Someone suggested. Chapter 1385. 1385 Chapter 1385 Bathing in the Emperor's Blood. That's right. I suggest that each of the 4 divine palaces send a Lever 4 martial royal realm expert. The 4 of us will join forces to test this kid's strength. If he didn't set up a killing formation here, we can take him down in one fell swoop. A white-haired old man from the North God Palace said. This person was the palace master of the North God Palace. His cultivation had reached the peak of the Lever 4 martial royal realm and he was extremely powerful. All right, let's do that. The others all nodded in agreement. Next, it was time to select the candidates. Soon, the 4 divine palaces each selected a Lever 4 martial royal realm expert. In the North Divine Palace, Wang Sheng had just surrendered, so his status was the lowest. Without a doubt, the North Divine Palace wanted him to take action, which made his expression somewhat unsightly. Boom, 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 boom. From four directions, the four overlords were like four gods, pressing down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, no matter what tricks you have up your sleeve, the outcome is already decided today. Wang Sheng sneered. Step by step, his aura became stronger and stronger. His entire body was covered in a milky white holy light. He was the strongest among the four. He used to be one of the patriarchs of the top 10 families in the South God Palace. He was ranked in the top 3 among the patriarchs of the top 10 families in the South God Palace. His cultivation had almost reached the peak of the Lever 4 martial royal realm. Lu Ming's main body and clone stood together. He covered his entire body with the embryonic form of the chaos domain to resist the external pressure. Boom! Under the pressure of the four experts, the lake water below churned. The lake water within 100,000 miles was instantly evaporated, revealing the dried-up bottom of the lake. Attack! Suddenly, Wang Sheng shouted explosively and took the lead to attack. The other three experts also charged toward Lu Ming. Bubble! At this moment, Lu Ming shouted softly. Then, the bubble appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder. It chirped and waved its small claws. On the bodies of Wang Sheng and the other three, a transparent bubble suddenly appeared, enveloping the four people inside. The four of them were frozen in the air, unable to move. The four of them were sealed in the bubble, their eyes revealing an expression of shock and despair. Kill! Lu Ming took the lead and charged at one of them with the dragon vein sword in his hand. The combat sword slashed and the man was cut in half. His spiritual god was also crushed into pieces by the sword chi. An overlord at the Lever 4 martial royal realm was killed just like that. Why would I? All around, everyone was stunned, not understanding what had happened. As for Lu Ming, he charged at the second person. Poochie! Blood splattered everywhere. The second overlord figure was killed by Lu Ming. Following that, Lu Ming charged towards the third person, Wang Sheng. What's going on? Break, break. Wang Sheng roared crazily, using all his strength, wanting to blast open the transparent bubble. Just as Lu Ming was about to approach him, he finally burst the transparent bubble. However, what made him despair was that just as he broke this transparent bubble, another transparent bubble appeared out of thin air and enveloped him. This transparent bubble had appeared without any warning. There were no fluctuations and it was impossible to dodge. No, don't. Wang Sheng's heart was madly roaring, frantically struggling. However, Lu Ming had already arrived. Whoosh! The battle sword slashed down, splitting Wang Sheng into two, destroying his body and soul. After killing Wang Sheng, Lu Ming didn't even look and charged towards the fourth person. What's going on? That's the space-time domain. It's the space-time domain. It's that pet. It's that pet. This person is a monster. A monster. Let's attack together and kill him. We'd rather not get the mixed energy token. Lu Ming had killed 3 overlord figures in a row. The experts of the 4 divine palaces were completely terrified and went completely crazy. Lu Ming was too dangerous. If they did not kill him today, they would be the ones to die. Attack, all of you attack. Kill. Hundreds of experts from the divine palaces all attacked at the same time. Hundreds of attacks gathered together and headed toward Lu Ming. This kind of attack was too terrifying. Heaven and earth trembled. Lu Ming's pupils constricted rapidly. There was no doubt that if Lu Ming was hit, he would definitely turn into ashes. There was no possibility of him surviving. Chirping. The bubble's body glowed and its small claw clawed at the void. A space-time tunnel appeared and Lu Ming rushed into it without any hesitation. Boom. The attack landed on the ground the moment Lu Ming rushed into the space-time tunnel. Below him, the lake that was hundreds of thousands of miles in radius was instantly annihilated. Boom. 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 The ground within a radius of several 100,000 li was shaking violently, and countless huge cracks covered the entire land like a spiderweb. At the center of the attack, a huge hole with a radius of tens of thousands of miles appeared. Its depth was unfathomable. Boom. In the next moment, fiery red lava rushed out of the giant hole and rushed thousands of miles into the sky. Without a doubt, the ground had been pierced through. It was like the end of the world for hundreds of thousands of miles. Countless creatures had died. Tens of thousands of miles away, the space fluctuated and Lu Ming appeared. Lu Ming did not die. He's there. Kill him. Buzz. 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 The experts charged at Lu Ming the moment they saw him. Beams of dazzling rainbow light streaked across the sky and headed for Lu Ming. If you want to kill, then kill to your heart's content today. The energy of the air-frozen bead gushed into Lu Ming's body. He cast the wind elemental art and his body moved rapidly, avoiding the attacks and killing his way into the crowd. Chirping. The bubble cried out. A Lever 4 Martial Royal Realm expert was the first to bear the brunt. He was enveloped by the transparent bubble and could not move at all. Lu Ming charged forward and killed the man. Then, Lu Ming charged forward and killed a few martial emperors. Lu Ming's entire body was bathed in emperor's blood. He was like an invincible god of death. Help each other. Whoever is trapped by those bubbles, help each other, someone shouted. Then, some people were trapped by bubbles. The other strong people quickly came to their aid, leaving Lu Ming with no way to attack. This move of his is useless. Kill. Lu Ming must die today. The crowd roared and charged at Lu Ming from all directions. It's my turn to make a move. He appeared and flew out. Suddenly, a huge turtle shell appeared in the air. Many attacks landed on the huge turtle shell, but they were all blocked by it. Buzz. Buzz. Bubbles opened her mouth and spat out a few sharp glints. These glints were like wind blades, but they were many times stronger than wind blades. They were the condensation of space and time. A Lever 4 Martial Royal Realm expert was killed by the sword radiance. I'll do it. Dandan shouted as her body rapidly grew in size. She slapped a Lever 4 Martial Royal Realm expert to death. After Dandan and Bubbles broke through to the Martial Emperor realm, they displayed terrifying combat strength and could even kill a Lever 4 Martial Emperor. This made the experts from all four sides feel a chill in their hearts. However, there were too many experts in the surroundings. Although Dandan and Bubbles had each killed one person, they were also blasted away by the many attacks. Chapter 1386. 1386 Chapter 1386 Fatal Blow. Nest, there are too many people. Dandan killed another 2/3 level Martial Royal Realm experts and flew back to Lu Ming's shoulder. Chirping. Pow Pow appeared on Lu Ming's other shoulder silently. Let's go. Lu Ming cast the wind elemental technique, turned around, and left. Kill. Don't let him get away. The experts at the scene were already in a killing frenzy and charged toward Lu Ming. Hundreds of colorful red lights pierced through the void and headed toward Lu Ming. At the critical moment, Bubbles opened a void channel. Lu Ming rushed into the void channel and appeared thousands of miles away, avoiding the attack. Don't stop, continue to pursue him. No matter how heaven-defying his pet is, it can't use that kind of technique continuously. It'll exhaust its energy, he can't escape. One after another, the Overlord figures called out to the crowd to attack Lu Ming. They had to kill Lu Ming today. Otherwise, if Lu Ming escaped, they would not be able to gather together every day. They had to split up. Once they split up, it would be more dangerous to face Lu Ming's attacks. Therefore, he had to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots today. They chased after Lu Ming tightly. Lu Ming flew forward at high speed. After flying for 1,000,000 miles, Lu Ming suddenly stopped. He turned around and looked at the experts who were chasing after him. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Seeing that the experts were slowly approaching, Ming Lian appeared. The mental energy fire between his eyebrows jumped and he shouted, "Rise!" Buzz! Whoosh! In the void, countless inscriptions appeared, and a huge array appeared in the sky. This formation covered a radius of 30,000 miles, and everyone was trapped inside. This was Lu Ming's killing move. Lu Ming's ultimate killing formation was not inscribed at the lake, but here. The lake was just a bait, and so was he. He knew that the cultivators of the 4 divine palaces wouldn't be fooled easily. Everything he had done before was for this moment, to lure these people here. Not good, I've been tricked. There's a killing formation here. Hurry up and charge out. Someone shouted. It's too late. God-killing sword formation, kill. Ming Lian's second body roared. Countless sword lights appeared in the killing formation. Each sword light emitted a terrifying aura. This was a clone inscription formation that had taken several months to set up, and its power was terrifying. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sword chi swept down. The sovereigns at the first, second, and third levels of the martial royal realm were unable to block it at all. As the sword radiance slashed across, their bodies and spirits were destroyed. Only those at the fourth level martial royal realm could barely withstand it. In just a few minutes, there were only dozens of Lever 4 martial royal realm experts left in the void. These people were virtually the Divine Ruins Continent Group's peak powerhouses already. But these powerhouses were also struggling to hold on. Ah! With a shrill scream, Lu Ming saw Hai Pengtian's heart being pierced by 10,000 swords and he died on the spot. He was already injured, and now he was the first to die. After the fall of Hai Pengtian, some of the weaker overlord figures were also killed one by one. The number of people was decreasing. Lu Ming, let us go. I'm willing to join you. I'm also willing to do so. Please spare my life. Some people started to shout and beg for mercy. You guys should just die. I'd rather believe in the dead. Kill them. Lu Ming said coldly. The formation was activated, and countless sword lights were unleashed. People were killed one after another. These were the overlords of the Divine Ruins Continent Group, but at that moment, their lives were like grass, and they had fallen on this land. A few minutes later, there were only 5 or 6 people left in the air, barely holding on. These 5 or 6 people were the top experts of the Divine Ruins Continent Group. Each of them was only one step away from the 5th level of the martial royal realm. They tried their best to break through, but the formation covered a radius of 30,000 miles. The sword chi was endless, and they couldn't break out at all. Lu Ming, you'll die a horrible death. The last few people begged for mercy, but it didn't work, so they started to curse. However, in the end, they were all killed by the formation. There were more than 500 martial royal realm experts who came to kill Lu Ming this time, but they were all massacred by Lu Ming. Not a single one was left. Such a thing had never happened before in the Divine Ruins Continent Group. After killing the last person, Lu Ming's mind was completely at ease. He heaved a long sigh of relief and prepared to put away the storage ring. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly felt a sense of danger. This sense of danger made Lu Ming's hair stand on end and he felt a chill in his heart. Whoosh! At this moment, a terrifying attack was launched at Lu Ming from behind. It was too fast. It was so fast that Lu Ming could not react. Almost subconsciously, it was a kind of instinct. With a thought, Ming Lian moved his secondary body and stood behind Lu Ming. It was a sword light that pierced through the Ming Lian clone's chest. The terrifying sword chi suddenly exploded, and half of the Ming Lian clone's body exploded. Even half of his head exploded. Bang! Ming Lian's body flew far away, his aura extremely weak. The second body was in mortal danger. The main body trembled and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, this delay had also bought Lu Ming some time. The energy of the air-frozen bead gushed in. Lu Ming cast the wind element art and his figure was like a phantom, retreating backward rapidly. As soon as Lu Ming retreated, the sharp blade that attacked him advanced and charged toward Lu Ming at top speed. It was a sword light with a world-shaking sharpness that could kill everything. Lu Ming had never seen such a sharp sword. At this moment, Dandan and Bubbles also reacted. A piece of tortoiseshell blocked Lu Ming's path. A creak. The turtle shell blocked some of the sword light, but it was still pierced through. At this moment, the bubble opened a void channel. Lu Ming's figure disappeared into the void channel and he appeared tens of thousands of miles away. He had finally avoided the fatal blow. Buzz! A sword light flashed, and a middle-aged man appeared in the void. It's you. Lu Ming's pupils constricted when he saw this person. This middle-aged burly man was the middle-aged burly man from the deity sect. Back then, he had chased after Lu Ming together with the master of the Mu family and young Master Lin. Later on, in the core of the Divine Ruins, He was injured by the headless true dragon rider and had to retreat in embarrassment. Initially, Lu Ming thought that the other party had already returned to the Yuan continent. He did not expect that not only did the other party not return to the Yuan continent, but he had also been hiding at the side. When Lu Ming was at his most relaxed, he launched a fatal blow. If he had not blocked the attack, Lu Ming would have been dead. However, the other party's condition was not right. His entire body was filled with a black mist, which was like a poisonous snake. It wrapped around the burly man of the heavenly god sect, making him look extremely ferocious. His breath was also unstable. It's equivalent to a lever 6 martial royal realm expert, Lu Ming estimated in his heart. The other party's cultivation should have been above the 7th level of the martial royal realm, but because of the snake-like mist, his cultivation had dropped to the 6th level of the martial royal realm. However, the 6th level of the martial royal realm still far surpassed Lu Ming. Chapter 1387. 1387 Chapter 1387 Mastermind. Lu Ming, you're really lucky to be able to escape like this. But this place is extremely far from the divine ruins. Let's see how you're going to escape. The burly man from the heavenly god sect glared at Lu Ming, his eyes filled with malevolence and cold killing intent. You didn't return to the Yuan continent. Lu Ming frowned, his mind highly focused. The other party was right. This place was too far away from the divine ruins. Even if he borrowed the bubbles to open a spacetime tunnel, he would most likely not be able to escape the other party's pursuit. Before he could even run into the divine ruins, he was already chased and killed by the other party. Lu Ming was in danger. It's all because of you. The burly man from the heavenly god sect seemed to have been stabbed in the heart by Lu Ming's question. He roared in anger and said ferociously, "It's all because of you that I've been cursed and my cultivation has dropped. If I take the teleportation array in this state, the void will shake and the curse will penetrate deep into my bones. It'll be difficult to get rid of it. How can I be satisfied if I don't kill you?" The burly man from the heavenly god sect became angrier and angrier as he spoke, and his killing intent grew colder. Lu Ming understood that the other party should have been injured by the headless true dragon knight in the core of the divine ruins and suffered from the power of the curse. A headless true dragon rider was not a living being, but was formed from the undying battle intent of a supreme expert. Every move contained the power of the curse, which would constantly corrode one's body and soul. The burly man of the Tiantian sect had been affected by the power of the curse, which was why he had not returned to Yuan continent. It seems like you were the one who spread the news of me having a mixed essence token in the Divine Ruins continent group. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he suddenly spoke. He had always felt that this matter was strange. If the people from the South God Palace had searched Long Chen's soul and found out that he had the mixed energy token, they would definitely have sent experts to capture him. Why would it be so popular? Now that he saw the burly man from the Divine God sect, Lu Ming's heart suddenly moved as he thought of a possibility. It was very likely that the burly man from the Heavenly God sect had fanned the flames and spread the news, hoping to kill Lu Ming with the help of others. Haha, that's right, it's me. The burly man from the Heaven God sect laughed. He took a step forward and covered 100 miles, approaching Lu Ming at an extreme speed. Lu Ming retreated quickly, thinking of countermeasures in his mind. The destruction of Dragon God Valley is also fake. Lu Ming continued. If the Tiantian sect wanted to borrow the hands of others to get rid of Lu Ming, the first thing they had to do was to make Lu Ming's identity no longer a deterrent. Ji Hongchen said that the Tiantian sect had sent the news that Dragon God Valley had been destroyed. It was very likely that this burly man from the Tiantian sect had also told them. He had spread false news with the purpose of getting rid of Lu Ming with the help of others. Not bad. The burly man from the Heavenly God sect said coldly. What a good scheme. Lu Ming sighed. From the beginning to the end, it was all because of the scheme of the burly man from the Divine God sect that Lu Ming had come to this point and was being hunted down by the entire continent of the Divine Ruins. Unfortunately, the burly man from the Heavenly God sect had underestimated Lu Ming. In the end, he had no choice but to take action personally. Whoosh! The burly man from the Divine Heaven sect was getting faster and faster. He surpassed Lu Ming and approached him at an extreme speed. Lu Ming had no choice but to let Bubbles open a spacetime tunnel and head north. Tens of thousands of miles away, Lu Ming appeared. Whoosh! However, the burly man from the heavenly god sect was extremely fast. With a flash of light, he quickly chased after Lu Ming. The distance between the two of them was getting closer and closer. What do we do? Lu Ming's mind was racing. The other party was too powerful. There was too much of a difference between Lu Ming and the other party. Any means would be useless in the face of Lu Ming's absolute power. Moreover, now that his second body was seriously injured and on the verge of death, his strength had also dropped greatly. Lu Ming, run. Let's see how you're going to escape. And let me tell you, after I kill you, I'll still go to the Divine Wilderness continent and destroy it. I'll kill everyone in the Divine Wilderness continent. The burly man from the heavenly god sect spoke coldly, causing Lu Ming's killing intent to surge. Human lives were like ants in the other party's eyes. Today, even if Lu Ming was lucky enough to escape, the other party would still attack the Divine Wilderness continent. No one in the Divine Wilderness continent would be spared. This was a lunatic. Dandan, is there any way? Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Dandan. Lu Ming, I knew it. You would have designs on me again. I'm really sinful. I'm always implicated by you. Dandan sighed. Is there any way? Lu Ming asked again. This person is cursed and his cultivation is only at lever 6 Martial Emperor realm. If Xiao Budian cooperates with me with all his strength, we might have a chance to severely injure him. However, we will suffer heavy losses. Lu Ming, I'm telling you, you have to compensate us in the future. Dandan mumbled to herself and then to Bubbles. Chirping. At that moment, Bubbles suddenly flew out. A layer of blood-red light suffused Bubbles' milky white fur and burned like flames, greatly increasing Bubbles' aura. Spacetime spirit mouse, I'll take you down first. Greed flashed in the eyes of the burly man from the heaven god sect. He waved the long sword in his hand and dozens of sword lights burst out. Like a cage, they enveloped the bubble. Bubbles' 2 small claws grabbed at the air. Catcher! Catcher! The space trembled violently and split apart like pieces of crystal. In the end, it formed a spatial sword and slashed toward the man from the divine god sect. The expression of the man from the heaven god sect changed. He did not dare to be careless. He changed the momentum of his sword and slashed horizontally. Buzz! Buzz! Whoosh! A total of 9 space swords were cut open by the burly man from the heavenly god sect. At this moment, Dandan also made her move. Like Bubbles, Dandan's body was suffused with a blood-red light, raising her aura by a notch. Lu Ming knew that Dandan and Bubbles were going all out. They had burned the power of their blood essence in their bodies to increase their strength in a short period of time. However, the repercussions were not small. Dandan's body became bigger than a mountain. Her 2 front claws slapped toward the burly man from the heavenly god sect. In the process of slapping, Dandan's claws were covered with inscriptions, forming a terrifying killing array that suppressed the burly man from the heavenly god sect. Buzz! 2 extremely sharp sword lights flew out from the hands of the burly man from the heavenly god sect and slashed at Dandan's claws. The array on Dandan's claw trembled and then collapsed. Dandan's body flew out. However, at the same time, a transparent bubble suddenly appeared around the burly man from the heavenly god sect and enveloped him. This is a good opportunity. Dandan let out a loud cry and opened her mouth. A ball of chaotic mist was blasted towards the burly man from the heavenly god sect. Within the chaotic mist, it was like a world. Mountains and rivers could be vaguely seen. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as Dandan's attack was about to land, 10,000 sword lights burst out from the transparent bubble and destroyed it in one fell swoop. The sword lights slashed at the world projection that Dandan had spat out. The illusionary world that Dandan spat out shook crazily and finally dissipated. Nest, kill! Dandan roared loudly. Her whole body was shining with a dazzling blood-red light. Between heaven and earth, 9 huge turtle shells appeared and pressed down on the burly man from the Tiantian sect. Chapter 1388. 1388 Chapter 1388 Going All Out. Dandan burned the power of her blood essence and her strength increased greatly. She continued to display terrifying techniques. Bubbles was in a similar state. The blood-red light around its body was blinding as it chirped. The space where it stood was like water ripples that constantly trembled. It was as if it was the master of this world, and it was using terrifying killing techniques. However, the burly man from the heavenly god sect was terrifyingly strong. He was engaged in a great battle with Dandan and Bubbles. What powerful combat strength! Something is wrong with this combat strength. Lu Ming's expression was extremely grave. The combat strength of the burly man from the deity sect was beyond his imagination. The cultivation of the burly man from the heavenly god sect was equivalent to the 6th level of the martial royal realm. However, his combat strength was completely out of Lu Ming's expectations. It was not the 6th level of the martial royal realm that Lu Ming had imagined. Instead, it was much higher. Lu Ming had killed more than one 4th level martial emperor in the Divine Ruins continent group, so he was very clear about the combat strength of these 4th level martial emperors. Although the Lever 4 martial royal realm experts on the continent of the Divine Ruins had strong combat strength, there was still a gap. According to the combat strength of these Lever 4 martial royal realm experts, he could roughly estimate that they had the combat strength of a Lever 6 martial royal realm expert. However, the combat strength of the burly man from the heavenly god sect was much stronger than what Lu Ming had predicted. Could it be that the combat power of the Yuan continent's martial emperor is much stronger than that of the Divine Ruins continent? Or is the burly man from the Tiantian sect a combat genius? Or perhaps, it's because his original realm was higher. Lu Ming guessed in his heart. Then, Lu Ming moved and appeared next to the second body. Lu Ming frowned after sensing it carefully. The secondary body was severely injured. Half of its body had exploded, leaving only the other half. Fortunately, the soul that Lu Ming had split in the secondary body was not severely injured. Otherwise, it would have been equivalent to the secondary body dying. However, the situation was not good. The clone would need a long time to recuperate before it could recover. During this period of time, the clone could not help Lu Ming. With a wave of his hand, he put the clone into the mountain and river diagram. Then, he condensed his vital essence into a ribbon and collected all the storage rings of the emperors. Boom! 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 The battle between Dandan, Bubbles, and the burly man from the heavenly god sect had already turned white hot. Curse! This lord will fight it out with you. Dandan shouted in the air, jumping left and right, and attacked in an endless stream. She had the Tao of inscription, the Tao of martial arts, and everything else. As for the spacetime spiritual mouse, it was much simpler. It used the spacetime domain to fight against the enemy, but its power was extremely terrifying. The burly man from the heavenly god sect was extremely afraid of the Bubble's spacetime domain because he would be fixed in place by the spacetime domain if he was not careful. It had to be said that Dandan and Bubbles were indeed powerful. They had just broken through to the Emperor realm not long ago, but when the two of them combined their strength and used all their skills, they were able to fight with the burly man from the heavenly god sect. One really did not know how terrifying they would be at their peak. Very quickly, the two sides had exchanged over 100 moves. Ha ha ha, it's finally done. At this moment, Dandan suddenly burst out laughing. His figure suddenly retreated, and dense inscriptions suddenly appeared around the burly man from the heavenly god sect. This was a large array. Previously, Dandan was shouting and jumping around. It turned out that she was secretly setting up an array. Now, the formation was finally complete. Buzz! The formation glowed. Between heaven and earth, 9 huge turtle shells appeared. The turtle shells glowed and suppressed the heaven and earth of the burly man from the Tiantian sect. Break! The burly man from the heaven god sect shouted and slashed out with his sword, hitting a piece of turtle shell. However, the turtle shell only shook and was not broken. Little guy, do it. Go all out. Dandan shouted and opened her mouth to spit out a ball of chaotic light. Within the chaos, a world was evolving. This time, the illusionary image of the world that Dandan spat out was extremely real. The inscriptions inside interweaved and actually formed all kinds of living creatures, which suppressed the burly man from the Tiantian sect. Chirping. The bubble cried out and waved its claws. A transparent bubble suddenly appeared around the burly man from the heavenly god sect and enveloped him. This bubble was clearly different from the transparent bubbles that had appeared before. This transparent bubble had the shadow of a space-time spirit mouse circling it, howling at the sky. Break, break, break. The burly man of the heaven god sect seemed to have sensed the danger. He roared madly and his sword chi burst out, trying to break the turtle shell shield. Catcher, catcher. A crack appeared on one of the tortoise shells, and it exploded. Explode, 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 explode. Dandan roared. Boom, boom. The illusory world that Dandan had spat out suddenly exploded. At the same time, Bubble's transparent bubble also exploded. The terrifying energy annihilated the entire territory, turning it into a pitch-black mass. A terrifying destructive storm erupted in all directions, turning that place into a black hole. Dandan and Bubble's bodies were sent flying far away by the destructive storm. Lu Ming hurriedly rushed out and caught Dandan and Bubbles. At this moment, Dandan and Bubbles' auras were extremely weak and their bodies were dim. Chirping. Bubbles cried out weakly, her body curled up and she actually fell unconscious. Bubble. Lu Ming's heart ached. Lu Ming, Xiao Budian and I have burned our blood essence source and suffered great losses. I'm afraid we'll have to sleep for a while. You have to prepare spiritual herbs when we wake up, a lot of spiritual herbs. Dandan said and fell unconscious. Don't worry, Lu Ming muttered and kept Dandan and Bubbles into the mountain and river diagram. Boom. In front of him, the explosion was still going on, and it took a long time before it calmed down. A figure appeared in the sky. The burly man from the heavenly god sect was actually still alive. However, at this moment, he was extremely miserable. His entire body was in tatters, and wounds of various sizes covered his entire body as blood flowed out. His aura was extremely weak, and there was a layer of true yuan covering his body, allowing him to stand in the air. Ah, damn it, damn it. The burly man from the heavenly god sect roared in anger. This was too tragic, he was too miserable. He had already been struck by the headless true dragon rider's curse power, causing his cultivation base to regress and it was difficult for him to recover. Just now, he was also severely injured by Dandan and Bubble, adding on to his injuries. Even if he recovered in the future, his cultivation base would regress and it would be difficult for him to improve again. His anger seemed to be able to burn half the sky. Kill. Before he could react, a cold killing intent enveloped him. Lu Ming charged over. The embryonic form of the chaos domain wrapped around the dragon pattern sword and slashed at him. Clang. The burly man from the heaven god sect raised the long sword in his hand and blocked in front of him. The dragon vein sword struck his long sword, causing his body to shake violently. His body flew out like a cannonball, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Now, he was no match for Lu Ming at all. Kill. Lu Ming shouted and charged at the other party. Lu Ming, I'll spare your life today. The burly man from the heavenly god sect roared and turned to run. Where are you going? Lu Ming cast the wind element technique and chased after the burly man from the heavenly god sect. The burly man from the divine sky sect transformed into a beam of sword light. His speed was so fast that he seemed to be traveling through space. Lu Ming used the power of the air-frozen bead to help him and cast the wind element technique. However, he could not catch up with him. Chapter 1389. 1389 Chapter 1389 Whereabouts of the prison suppressing Steely. The two of them, one chasing and one escaping, disappeared from this place. However, it was impossible for the burly man from the heavenly god sect to shake off Lu Ming. Moreover, as time passed, the distance between Lu Ming and the burly man from the heavenly god sect was getting closer. After all, the burly man from the heaven god sect had suffered heavy injuries. At this time, he was running for his life. As his injuries worsened, his speed naturally became slower and slower. This won't do. If this continues, this brat will catch up to me sooner or later. Now that I'm seriously injured, I don't even have 1% of my strength left. I'm not his match at all. The burly man from the heavenly god sect was thinking of a way to escape. Behind him, Lu Ming's eyes were cold. His body was shrouded in a green light as he chased after the burly man from the heavenly god sect at an extreme speed. He must kill the burly man of the heavenly god sect. The reason why he was chased by all the experts on the continent of the divine ruins was all because of the burly man from the divine god sect. First, there was news that Lu Ming had a mixed essence token and could enter the core of the divine ruins safely. Then, there was fake news that Dragon God Valley had been exterminated, so the experts of the continent group of the divine ruins did not have any scruples about Lu Ming and went all out to hunt him down. Later on, when Lu Ming set up a trap and killed a large number of experts from the continent of the divine ruins, the burly man from the deity sect launched a sneak attack and seriously injured his second body. Now, even Dandan and Bubbles were unconscious. Lu Ming had suffered a great loss. Furthermore, with the actions of the burly man from the Tiantian sect, if he was not killed, he would definitely seek revenge on Lu Ming in a frenzy. The divine wilderness continent, his family and friends would all be in danger. Therefore, Lu Ming had to kill the burly man from the divine god sect at all costs to get rid of future troubles. The distance between the two of them was slowly closing. No, this can't go on. I can only give it my all. The burly man from the heaven god sect had a ruthless look in his eyes. He suddenly changed his direction and flew toward the east. That is, the direction of the ancient city of the divine ruins. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Originally, the location he had chosen before was in the central part of the divine ruins continent, not far from the ancient city of the divine ruins. This way, he could wait for the powerhouses of the four great divine palaces to appear at the same time. This person, could it be that he wants to use the ancient city of the god ruins teleportation array to escape back to the Yuan continent's Tiantian sect? Lu Ming made a guess. In fact, this was the case. The burly man from the Tiantian sect could no longer care about his injuries. He wanted to use the teleportation array to escape back to the Tiantian sect. As long as he returned to the Tiantian sect, he would be safe. In the future, when he recovered from his injuries, he would definitely return to the divine ruins continent and kill all of Lu Ming's friends and family, completely destroying the divine wilderness continent. The burly man from the heavenly god sect had a cold glint in his eyes. I won't let you have your way. Lu Ming's eyes were determined. More energy poured into the air-frozen bead. Lu Ming exerted the wind element technique to the extreme and his speed increased. The distance between him and the burly man from the deity sect was closing. Hurry, hurry. The burly man from the heaven god sect roared in his heart and tried his best to escape. Soon, a huge ancient city appeared in front of them. Buzz, buzz. The two people, one in front and one behind, rushed into the ancient divine ruin city. What's that? What a powerful fluctuation. That's an emperor. He's so powerful. Who is he? In the ancient city of the divine ruins, some experts were alarmed, looking at the sky in shock. In front of him, the 36 Tiangang peaks were in sight. We're here, we're almost here. The burly man from the heavenly god sect was shining with hope. Power, come. You're courting death. Lu Ming shouted angrily. An even stronger force from the air-frozen bead gushed into Lu Ming's body. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The air-frozen bead contained a lot of power. Lu Ming could not withstand the influx of too much power and was injured by the force. However, because of this, Lu Ming's speed also increased greatly. He suddenly sped up and approached the burly man from the divine god sect. Buzz. The dragon vein sword slashed down towards the burly man from the heavenly god sect. Not good. The burly man from the heaven god sect was shocked. He quickly turned around and waved his sword to block. Clang. The burly man from the heaven god sect was sent flying, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Suppress. Above Lu Ming's head, the prison-suppressing steely bloodline emerged. Lu Ming transformed into the prison-suppressing steely and suppressed the burly man from the heaven god sect. Boom. The burly man from the heaven god sect was hit by the prison-suppressing steely. His body was like a meteorite, crashing down heavily. He smashed a Fector peak and his body almost cracked. The prison guarding Steely. Why do you have the prison guarding Steely too? Is this a bloodline? No, it's the fragment of the prison suppressing Steely. The burly man from the Heaven God sect struggled to get up. He looked at Lu Ming's prison suppressing Steely bloodline and shouted in disbelief. Boom. Lu Ming could not be bothered with him. The prison suppressing Steely pressed down again. This time, he had almost killed the burly man from the Heavenly God sect. The burly man was extremely weak. The long sword in his hand had flown out. He no longer had the strength to resist. Spare me, spare me. The burly man from the Heavenly Divine sect shouted in fear. Spare my life. When you wanted to kill me before, you didn't show any mercy. If it wasn't for my good luck, I would have died. Lu Ming's cold voice came from the prison-suppressing Steely. The prison-suppressing Steely trembled and emitted a cold killing intent. It was about to suppress the man from the Tianshan sect once again. Wait a minute, Lu Ming. You've awakened the bloodline of the prison-guarding Steely. If you can get the original body of the prison-guarding Steely, you'll be like a tiger that has grown wings. The burly man from the Heavenly God sect suddenly shouted. You know the true form of the prison-guarding Steely? Lu Ming's voice was heard as the prison-suppressing Steely's murderous intent was halted. Seeing that Lu Ming was moved, the burly man from the Heavenly God sect was overjoyed. That's right. It's said that the prison-guarding Steely was broken by someone in the distant past. It was broken into several pieces and scattered all over the world. I know a piece of the prison-guarding Steely fragment is in the Tianshan sect. The Heavenly God sect. Lu Ming was shocked. That's right. As long as you promise to let me go, I will definitely find a way to help you steal the fragment of the prison-suppressing Steely when I return to the Divine sect. The heavenly deity burly man cried out. However, a scheme was brewing in his heart. Hehe, do you think I will believe you? The fragment of the prison-guarding Steely is a treasure that the Tianshan sect will definitely protect. With your cultivation, you are definitely not a high-level figure in the Tianshan sect. How could you have obtained the fragment of the prison-guarding Steely? Do you think I am so easy to fool? Even if the Tianshan sect really has the fragment of the prison-guarding Steely, I will get it myself in the future. So, you should just die. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard and he was about to kill the burly man from the Heavenly God sect. Buzz. At this moment, one of the 9 ancient altars in the sky suddenly shone with a dazzling light. Lu Ming was shocked. The altar was glowing, which meant that people from the major sects of the Yuanlu continent were coming. Wasn't there still half a month to the 2-year agreement with the major sects of the Yuanlu continent? Could it be that the big sects of the Yuanlu continent had come in advance? Buzz. When the first altar lit up, the second altar lit up as well, and then the third. A total of 3 altars lit up. Then, a space gate appeared, and 2 figures appeared on each of the 3 altars. The people of the Heavenly God sect. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Lu Ming recognized one of the people on one of the altars. It was a white-haired elder. He was the white-haired elder from the Heavenly God sect that he had met when they were selecting disciples. Behind the white-haired elder was a young man whom he had never seen before. Chapter 1390. 1390 The terrifying combat strength of the paragon of the Yuanlu continent. Then, Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the other 2 altars. Dragon God Valley, and the Tianyu Demon Sect. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. On one of the altars, the middle-aged man from Dragon God Valley, who had been to the continent of divine ruins last time, appeared. Behind him was a young man. On the 3rd altar, there were 2 strong cultivators from the Tianyu Demon Sect. They were both middle-aged. Deacon, save me. This Lu Ming wants to kill me. As soon as he saw the white-haired old man of the Heavenly God sect, the burly man of the Heavenly God sect was ecstatic and shouted madly as if he had found his savior. The burly man from the Heavenly Divine sect shouted and people from several sides looked at Lu Ming and the rest. What? Lu Ming, how dare you? The white-haired elder of the Heaven God sect reacted and shouted. Kill. At the same time, the prison-suppressing stele shook and pressed down on the burly man from the heavenly god sect. There was no time to lose. The major sects of the Yuanlu continent had arrived early, which was out of Lu Ming's expectations. However, he had to kill the burly man from the deity sect. Therefore, Lu Ming took action directly. He was straightforward and decisive. "No, no, you!" The burly man from the heavenly god sect cried out in despair. He had not expected that Lu Ming would still have the guts to attack him after seeing the arrival of the white-haired elder from the heavenly god sect. Boom! The prison-suppressing stele did not stop. As it pressed down, the burly man from the heavenly god sect was torn into pieces and his body and soul were destroyed. "How dare you! You're looking for death!" A cold shout came from the sky. The white-haired elder of the heavenly god sect emitted an extremely terrifying aura. The strength of this aura far exceeded that of the burly man from before. In front of him, Lu Ming was like an ant. Bang! Under this pressure, Lu Ming could not maintain the form of the prison-suppressing stele and it collapsed. Lu Ming's real body appeared, pale and almost spitting out blood. "What do you want to do? Do you think the disciples of Dragon God Valley are easy to bully? Get lost." Just as Lu Ming was about to give in, a loud shout was heard. The burly man from the Dragon God Valley shouted and an aura that was not weaker than the white-haired elder's burst forth, blocking the white-haired elder's aura. Lu Ming then felt his body lighten and the pressure disappeared. He could not help but let out a long breath. His heart was heavy. Strong, they were too strong. Whether it was the white-haired elder of the Tiantian sect or the middle-aged man of the Dragon God Valley, they were all too strong. They had surpassed Lu Ming by many times. Lu Ming seemed to be very strong in the continent group of the Divine Ruins, but compared to the experts of the Yuan continent, he was much weaker. He felt that if the white-haired elder of the Tiantian sect and the middle-aged man of the Dragon God Valley wanted to kill him, they could do it with a flip of their hands. "You want to stop me? This little bastard killed the people of my Tiantian sect in front of me. He must die." The white-haired old man looked at the burly man from Dragon God Valley coldly. "Must die? How laughable. With me here, how are you going to kill him?" The middle-aged man from Dragon God Valley stared at the white-haired elder. "Are you deliberately going against my Tiantian sect?" The white-haired old man's face was gloomy, and the burly man from Dragon God Valley sneered. "Kill." Suddenly, the white-haired elder moved and charged toward Lu Ming. "I knew you would sneak attack." The middle-aged man from the Dragon God Valley followed suit and punched the white-haired elder. Boom! The two of them exchanged a blow, and the world rumbled. However, the two of them condensed their power and did not release it. Otherwise, the ancient city of the Divine Ruins would be in danger. "If you want to fight, go up and fight. Then I'll kill you first." The brawny man from Dragon God Valley and the white-haired elder from the Tiantian sect rushed into the sky and started a fierce battle. Who? At this moment, a terrifying pressure came from the sky. A terrifying palm force was pressing down on Lu Ming. It was the young man from the heavenly god sect. At this moment, he suddenly made a move and launched an attack on Lu Ming. Boom! Without thinking, Lu Ming threw a punch at the sky. When the fist and the palm collided, Lu Ming's expression changed. He could feel waves of energy surging towards him continuously. Lu Ming's body trembled and he retreated continuously. Buzz! A figure landed in front of Lu Ming. It was the young man from the heavenly god sect. "Brat, with your supreme martial artist cultivation, you can take one of my palm strikes." "Not bad, but I only used 30% of my power in that palm strike just now. Try taking another palm strike." The young man from the Tiantian sect sent another palm strike at Lu Ming. The power of this palm strike was much stronger than the previous one. Lu Ming's expression was grave. He exerted all his strength and cast the prison-suppressing heaven technique. The embryonic form of the chaos domain covered his fist and he threw a punch. Boom! The fist collided with the palm print for the second time. Just like the last time, Lu Ming felt an irresistible force surging toward him. He could not help but retreat. How can he be so strong? Lu Ming was shocked and in disbelief. That was because he could clearly see that his opponent's realm was not ridiculously strong. Second-level martial emperor realm. Moreover, he was at the early stage of the second-level martial royal realm. At this level, if it was a martial artist from the Divine Ruins continent group, he could kill them at will. But now, except for the Chaos Sky-turning seal, he had used all his strength, but he was still no match for his opponent. Moreover, he felt that the other party had not used his full strength at all. There was an unfathomable feeling about him. Lu Ming estimated that even if he used the Chaos Sky-turning seal, he might not be able to do anything to the other party. The other party's combat strength was too strong. Could it be that the other party was a heavens chosen from the Tiantian sect? Lu Ming had all sorts of guesses in his heart. Interesting. If you can take my second palm, what about my third palm? The young man from the Heavenly God sect felt embarrassed after failing to kill Lu Ming with 2 consecutive palm strikes. His face turned cold. The aura on his body was even stronger. You're just putting on an act here. If you have the ability, fight me. At this time, a loud shout was heard. A burly young man suddenly appeared behind the young man from the Heavenly God sect and attacked him. The young man from the Heavenly God sect turned pale. He could not be bothered with Lu Ming and turned around to fight with the burly young man. The burly young man was the young man who had come with the burly man from Dragon God Valley. The two of them fought, and it was difficult to determine the winner. What powerful strength! Lu Ming's eyes were filled with shock. The cultivation of the burly youth from Dragon God Valley was similar to that of the youth from the Tiantian sect. They were both in the early stage of the second-level martial emperor realm. However, their combat strength was unusually amazing. Lu Ming felt that some of the weaker fourth-level martial emperors on the continent group of the Divine Ruins were not their opponents. Yuan continent is indeed not simple. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. His eyes shone with stronger anticipation. Without a doubt, there were many experts in the Yuan continent, far more than the continents of the Divine Ruins. This made Lu Ming look forward to it. And now, Lu Ming knew that it was very likely that the deity sect had a fragment of the prison-suppressing stele, which made him look forward to it even more. He had a feeling that if he gathered all the fragments of the prison-suppressing stele, the bloodline of the prison-suppressing stele would definitely undergo a shocking change. The battle between the two sides was extremely intense, but their combat strength was equal. It was difficult to determine the victor. Chapter 1391. 1391 Chapter 1391 Parting. In the ancient city of the Divine Ruins, everyone was alarmed. Some people fled outside, while some people came towards Lu Ming and the others. When they sensed the fluctuations of the battle, they also retreated frantically in fear. At this moment, Lu Ming had a thought and Xian Yanqing appeared. Xian Yanqing. As soon as Xian Yanqing appeared, the eyes of the two middle-aged men from the Tianyu demon sect lit up. Lu Ming, what's going on? Xian Yanqing looked around with a puzzled expression. Previously, in the mountain and river diagram, she saw that her second body was severely injured while Dandan and Bubbles were unconscious. She could not help but feel very worried. Now that she saw that Lu Ming was fine, she heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Ming briefly explained the situation. I see. Xian Yanqing's eyes turned as he saluted the two middle-aged men from the Tianyu demon sect. The two men sized up Xian Yanqing and nodded with a smile as if they were very satisfied. Xian Yanqing's cultivation had reached the supreme being level, which surprised them but also satisfied them. 2 years ago, they had seen Xian Yanqing. At that time, they were very clear about Xian Yanqing's cultivation. In the continent of the Divine Ruins, he was able to break through to the Supreme Being realm in just 2 years. This kind of talent made them value Xian Yanqing even more. Following that, Xian Yanqing mumbled to the two middle-aged men. One of the middle-aged men nodded and flew into the sky. He joined forces with the burly man from Dragon God Valley to fight the white-haired old man. Tianyu demon sect, you. The white-haired old man let out a furious roar. However, he was no match for the two experts' joint attack. He was suppressed and could only retreat quickly, flying out of the battle circle. Old man, if you want to fight, I don't mind killing you today. The burly man from Dragon God Valley sneered. Good, very good. Do you really think that our Tianshan sect is easy to bully? Let's wait and see. The white-haired old man said angrily, but he didn't dare to make a move. The white-haired old man stopped, and the two young men also stopped and retreated. People of the continent of the divine ruins, listen up. I am a deacon of the deity sect in the Yuan continent. Tell those disciples of the deity sect who have not gone to the Yuan continent to get their asses here. The white-haired elder's voice spread far and wide. Hee hee. The middle-aged man from Dragon God Valley sneered and walked to Lu Ming's side. He sized Lu Ming up and his eyes lit up. As expected of a prodigy who has awakened the 9-dragon bloodline. His talent is amazing. It's only been 2 years, and his cultivation has already reached the supreme level. It's really rare in a place like the Divine Ruins continent. Thank you for your help, Senior. Lu Ming bowed. Haha, you're a disciple of my Dragon God Valley. I'm Long Yuanshan, a deacon of Dragon God Valley. You can just call me Deacon Long, Long Yuanshan said heroically. Then, he introduced the young man to the Dragon Guard. Right, what happened? Long Yuan Mountain's eyes looked at the corpse of the burly man from the God of Heaven sect and revealed a puzzled look. He was well aware of the cultivation base of the burly man from the Heavenly God sect. However, he found it unbelievable that he was killed by Lu Ming. It's like this. Lu Ming did not hide anything and explained the matter roughly. From 2 years ago, he was besieged by the burly man of the Heavenly God sect and the others to the recent events. Of course, Lu Ming did not mention anything important. For example, he did not mention his entry into the Chaos Hall, his cultivation of the Chaos Will, Dandan, and Bubbles. It was only said that the burly man from the Heavenly God sect was injured by the headless True Dragon Knight at the core of the Divine Ruins. He was killed because he was seriously injured. Damn it, the Tianshan sect is so despicable. They secretly besieged and killed the disciples of my Dragon God Valley. Long Yuanshan shouted in anger and looked at the white-haired elder of the Heavenly God sect unkindly. He seemed to be thinking whether he should attack the white-haired elder or not. The white-haired old man revealed a wary expression. In the end, Long Yuan Mountain also had some apprehensions and did not make a move. It's good to kill such trash. It's a pity that Long Chen was accepted as a disciple by the Divine Elephant sect's experts. However, his bloodline is more suitable for the Divine Elephant sect. Long Yuanshan mumbled. He then looked at Lu Ming and asked, Lu Ming, did you really obtain a mixed essence token in the Battle of Providence? Yes, I am. Lu Ming nodded. He did not hide the fact that he had a primordial chaos token. Haha, that's amazing. Who knows, you might have a fortuitous encounter in the future. Long Yuanshan's eyes flashed with joy. Then, he didn't ask further. In actual fact, there were many things that did not make sense in Lu Ming's words. Long Yuan Mountain could naturally tell that, but he also knew that it was Lu Ming's secret. Lu Ming was so young and he had such a cultivation. It was normal for him to have some secrets. However, some people from the Divine Ruins continent are quite bold. They actually dared to attack the disciples of my Dragon God Valley. They should be taught a lesson. Dragon Guard, go and knock some sense into those who are still alive. Let them remember that our Dragon God Valley is not destroyed. Lu Ming is our disciple. If they want to deal with Lu Ming's family and friends in the future, then they don't need to exist anymore, Long Yuan Mountain said. Yes. The Dragon Guard nodded, then stepped into the air and left. Many thanks, Deacon Long. Lu Ming expressed his thanks. Lu Ming knew that Long Yuan Mountain was doing this to appease him. Lu Ming really needed this favor. Although most of the sovereigns in the Divine Ruins continent group had been killed by Lu Ming in the previous battle, Lu Ming was still very powerful. However, the major forces still had some experts left. Although there were not many experts left, Lu Ming was still worried that these people would cause trouble for the Divine Wilderness continent after he left. However, with the help of the powerhouses of Dragon God Valley, these forces should be more obedient. Not long after, a genius arrived. It was Ji Hongchen. Ji Hongchen's father, Ji Feng, did not participate in the capture of Lu Ming due to Ji Hongchen's advice. Hence, he was spared. There weren't many Heaven's favorites left in the Heavenly God sect. There were only 2 of them. Soon, the 2 of them arrived. The white-haired elder of the Heavenly God sect led them onto the ancient altar and left. Lu Ming, I have to go too. Xian Yanqing came to Lu Ming's side and said reluctantly. The Tianyu demonic sect had only come to pick up Xian Yanqing. Now, they were about to set off. Little Qing, don't worry. I've asked the seniors of Longyuan Mountain. Dragon God Valley and the Tianyu demon sect are in the same territory and not too far apart. I'll visit you in the future. Lu Ming held Xian Yanqing's hand and said. Millimeter, okay. Xian Yanqing nodded and suddenly kissed Lu Ming on the lips. Lu Ming, you have to work hard. Don't let me surpass your cultivation the next time we meet. With that, she smiled brightly and turned to leave. Lu Ming smiled as he watched Xian Yanqing and the 2 powerhouses from the Tianyu demon sect leave. There was a hint of reluctance in his eyes. Little Qing, don't worry. This separation is only temporary. When we both have the strength to move unhindered in the world, there will be no need to separate anymore, Lu Ming muttered. His gaze became determined again. A few days later, the news of Lu Ming's battle with the powerhouses of the 4 great divine palaces spread wildly throughout the Divine Ruins continent and to other continents. In this battle, Lu Ming had killed the 4 divine palaces and all the top powerhouses from the other continents in one fell swoop. Countless people who had heard the news were dumbfounded. Chapter 1392. 1392 The Boundless Primordial Realm. All the powerhouses who went to capture Lu Ming were killed by him. It was a shocking scene. The continent group of the Divine Ruins had an unprecedented shock. After this battle, the continent group of the Divine Ruins was destined to have a major reshuffling. Then, there was news that the Dragon God Valley was not destroyed and was safe and sound. The news that the Dragon God Valley had been destroyed was false. This piece of news made all the major factions keep quiet out of fear. They had no disloyalty towards Lu Ming and the Divine Wilderness continent. Even those peak experts had died. They didn't want to die. Furthermore, the Dragon God Valley had not been destroyed. Lu Ming was now a disciple of the Dragon God Valley. Even if they were given 100 times more courage, they would not dare to touch the Divine Wilderness continent. The ancient Divine Ruins city, under the sacrificial altar. Lu Ming, if there's anything else you need to deal with, do it together. When you're done, we'll head to Dragon God Valley, Longyuan Mountain said. Lu Ming looked towards the south. It was as if he had pierced through the void and landed on the Divine Wilderness continent. After a while, Lu Ming shook his head and said, "No, Senior, let's go." Before Lu Ming left, he had already made all the arrangements for the Divine Wilderness continent. And now, the matter of the Divine Ruins continent group had already been resolved, so he did not need to worry too much. The only thing he had to do now was to go to the Yuan continent and cultivate. When his cultivation improved, it would be easy for him to come back and visit. "All right, let's go," Longyuan Mountain said. The 3 of them ascended an ancient altar and stepped through the light door of the altar. Lu Ming seemed to have stepped into a void channel. Countless lights and shadows flashed in his surroundings. After an unknown period of time, his body shook and the light disappeared. Lu Ming found himself on an ancient stone platform. Looking around, he was surrounded by desolate mountains. Is this the Yuan continent? Lu Ming looked around curiously and stepped out of the stone platform. Boom! The moment he walked out of the stone platform, a terrifying pressure was exerted on Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body trembled and he almost fell to his knees. He exerted some strength to stabilize his body. This is. Lu Ming felt that his body seemed to have become a few hundred times heavier. The surrounding air seemed to have become incomparably heavy and was constantly pressing down on his body. What's going on? Lu Ming was bewildered. He exerted force in his body to offset the external pressure. Lu Ming, do you feel that your body has become a few hundred times heavier? There's a strong pressure in the surroundings that's acting on you. Longyuan Shan walked out of the stone platform and smiled. That's right. Deacon, what's going on? Lu Ming asked, feeling extremely curious. Lu Ming, if you want to understand what's going on, you must first have a rough outline of the entire primordial realm's geographical distribution, Long Yuan Shan said. Then, he waved his hand and an image appeared in the sky. On the image, there was a vast ocean. The primordial realm is a boundless ocean. In the ocean, there are countless continents, and the primordial continent is in the center of the ocean. Long Yuan Mountain stretched out its hand and in the center of the ocean, a continent appeared. This continent was very large. It occupied a large area even in the vast ocean. This was the Yuan continent. In the primordial realm, the primordial land is the center and spreads out. There are countless large and small continents. In fact, most of them can't be called continents and can only be considered island. Long Yuan Mountain then waved his hand. With Yuan continent as the center, numerous black dots appeared on the ocean. These black dots were all continents. However, compared to the size of Yuan continent, they were like dust. Even some of the bigger ones couldn't be compared. The difference was too great. So many. Lu Ming gasped. He looked at the ocean and the countless black dots that were densely packed together. He was filled with shock. Could all of these be continents, continents like the divine wilderness continent? Senior, where is that divine ruins continent group? Lu Ming asked again. Here. Long Yuan Mountain pointed to the vast ocean in the south of the Yuan continent, a corner that was extremely far away from the Yuan continent. There were some black dots scattered there. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. The Divine Ruins continent group was too far away from the Yuan continent, and it was also too small. It was like a speck of dust, almost negligible in the entire picture. Was this the Divine Ruins continent group that he had been living in? In the entire primordial realm, it was so small that it was beyond Lu Ming's imagination. The entire primordial realm is a complete macro world. It is also very strange. The primordial land is the center of the primordial realm. The laws of heaven and earth are also the most perfect and flawless. Therefore, the heaven and earth on the primordial land are stable and the original qi is rich. It is a true holy land for cultivation. With the Yuan continent as the center and spreading out, the laws of heaven and earth will become weaker and weaker. They will become more and more incomplete. The space will become extremely unstable and the origin energy will become thinner and thinner. You can easily tear space in the Divine Ruins continent group, but here, can you try? Long Yuan Mountain explained to Lu Ming patiently. It's actually like this. Lu Ming was amazed. He took a deep breath and realized that the heaven and earth here was filled with rich origin energy. It was origin energy, not spirit energy. Here, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was very thin, and most of it was origin qi. He casually took a breath and the rolling original qi gathered in his body. Boom. Then, Lu Ming threw a punch. However, a shocking scene appeared. His fist only pierced through the air and made a terrible whistling sound. However, the space didn't move at all. There wasn't even a ripple. What a stable space. Unbelievable. In the Divine Ruins continent group, he could easily tear space and pierce through the void, but here, there was not even a ripple in the space. The closer we are to the Yuan continent, the more perfect the laws of heaven and earth are. Everything in the world is also the most perfect and stable. Naturally, the gravity will be stronger and the pressure that people will feel will be stronger, Long Yuan Mountain explained. Bang! Lu Ming stomped heavily on the ground, causing the rocks to crack and a pit to appear. It's so hard. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. He could clearly sense that the rocks here were just ordinary rocks and not some hard metal ore. Although he did not use his full strength, if he had been in the continent group of the Divine Ruins, a mountain range would have collapsed. However, here, it was only a pit. Even ordinary rocks were so hard. Long Yuan Mountain was right. Everything in the world here had become more stable because of the perfection of the heaven and earth laws, far more stable than the continents of the Divine Ruins. The destructive power of a martial royal realm expert here would be much lower than that of the continent group of the Divine Ruins. Of course, it also meant that it would be more dangerous for martial artists to go out and take risks. This was because the power of nature had become stronger. Following that, Lu Ming soared into the sky and tried flying. As expected, the speed of flying here was at least a few dozen times slower than the Divine Ruins continents. Chapter 1393. 1393. Arriving at Dragon God Valley. Given Lu Ming's cultivation level, he would be tens of times slower even if he were to fly, let alone tear open space. Yuan continent, it is indeed extraordinary. Lu Ming sighed. Lu Ming, you're wrong. This is not Yuan continent. Long Yuan Mountain laughed. On the side, the Dragon Guard also smiled. Lu Ming's reaction was within their expectations. What? This isn't the Yuan continent. Lu Ming's pupils shrank and he was shocked. Yes, I am. Long Yuan Shan waved his hand and the painting in the air disappeared. This is just a small island near the Yuan continent. In your eyes, this is a continent. If we are really in the Yuan continent, the pressure from the outside world will be stronger than this. Everything in the world will be more stable than this. What? Lu Ming was shocked. This place was not the Yuan continent, but an island near the Yuan continent. He was just close to the Yuan continent, but everything in the world was so stable. The pressure from the outside world was so strong. How terrifying would the true Yuan continent be? However, Lu Ming immediately thought of something. The cultivation environment here was already dozens of times better than the continent of the Divine Ruins. How good would the cultivation environment of the Yuan continent be? The pressure from the outside world was nothing. He would get used to it after some time. The cultivation environment was the most important thing. It could allow him to break through continuously. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with even more anticipation. Lu Ming, this is a transit point for outsiders to get used to it. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it if you enter the Yuan continent at once. Long Yuan Shan explained with a smile. Lu Ming nodded to express his understanding. Let's go. There should be other people here. We'll be staying here for half a month, Long Yuan Mountain said before walking forward. After crossing a huge mountain, he saw some attics in front of him. Lu Ming noticed that there were also some young people living there. The cultivation of these youths was very strong. There were those at the 8th, 9th, and even the great circle of the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming saw the most powerful ones at the supreme level. He learned from Long Yuan Mountain that these young men were disciples recruited from various continents by Dragon God Valley. Like Lu Ming, they had stayed in their original continents because of some matters and had only gone to Dragon God Valley now. Therefore, there were not many of them, only about 100. Lu Ming was assigned to a room. The next half a month was mainly to adapt to the environment here. That was because the environment of the continent cluster of the Divine Ruins and the Yuan continent were too different. And NBSB, hoo-hoo. In the pavilion's courtyard, Lu Ming performed a set of fist techniques and his body was flying around. He allowed his body to slowly adapt to the environment here. At the same time, he also allowed the speed and frequency of the true essence in his meridians to adapt to this place. A few hours later, Lu Ming stopped. He felt very comfortable. His body had also adapted to it slightly. In the beginning, when Lu Ming took action, he would either use more or less force. Now, he was much better. The origin chi here is really dense. Also, the intent realm of the heaven and earth is really clear. Lu Ming sensed carefully. Here, the intent realm of heaven and earth was dozens of times clearer than the Divine Ruins continent group. In other words, it was many times easier for warriors to comprehend the intent realm of heaven and earth here than in the Divine Ruins continent group. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Lu Ming and more than 100 other young men stepped into the teleportation array and headed to the Yuan continent. It was the same feeling as riding in the space passage. After an unknown amount of time, that feeling disappeared, and they reappeared on a huge altar. This place. It's a snow mountain. Lu Ming swept his gaze around and realized that he was in a snow mountain. Little guys, welcome to the Dragon God Valley of the Yuanlu. Long Yuan Shan's deep voice resounded and he stepped out of the altar. Come out, you'd better be prepared. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He understood what Long Yuan Mountain meant. The laws of heaven and earth in the Yuan continent were perfect, so the pressure between heaven and earth might be greater. On the altar, because of the protection of the formation, he could not feel it. Let's go. Yuanlu, I've finally arrived. These young men were extremely excited as they flew out of the altar. However, after these young men flew out of the altar, their bodies trembled. A few of the weakest ones almost lost their balance. What a strong pressure! Lu Ming flew out of the altar as well. He instantly felt a terrifying pressure acting on his body. His body weight was also extremely shocking. The pressure here was probably several hundred times, even 1,000 times that of the Divine Ruins continent cluster. Lu Ming was extremely shocked. Also, it's so cold. Lu Ming felt his body turn cold. This was a snow mountain, and the temperature was shockingly low. With Lu Ming's cultivation, he could not feel the usual cold. However, the temperature here made him feel chilly. This heaven-earth yuan qi. Lu Ming took a deep breath. In an instant, rolling original qi between heaven and earth flowed into him. It was unimaginably dense. Lu Ming felt that if he breathed casually, the amount of original qi would be equivalent to the amount of a low-grade raw stone. In the world, the original qi was rich, while the spiritual qi was extremely thin. Buzz. In the distance, a burly elder wearing a short-sleeved shirt with his arms bare flew over and landed in front of Lu Ming and the rest. Long Yuan Mountain and the others greeted the old man. Lu Ming, I'll take my leave first. This Deacon Long Yuan Chuan will arrange your accommodation, Long Yuan Mountain said to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded. Then, Long Yuan Mountain and the others who had gone to the other continents to pick up people like him left one after another. All right, come with me. I'll take you to your living quarters. After Long Yuan Chuan said that, he flew forward. Everyone quickly followed. However, they had just arrived and the pressure from the outside world was too strong. They were not used to it yet. This was after adapting to the transition station for half a month. Otherwise, it would have been even more difficult. After flying down the snow mountain, their field of view widened. In front of them, a huge glacier valley appeared. This ice mountain valley was formed by the separation of two mountain ranges. In the sky, snow was falling, and the world was covered in white. Lu Ming looked into the distance and realized that there were also snow mountains in front of the huge glacier canyon. However, they were far away and in the vast snow, they could not see clearly. Dragon Qi, so much Dragon Qi. What a strong Dragon Qi. Lu Ming felt his 9-dragon bloodline heating up. He was shocked when he sensed it through his 9-dragon bloodline. Through the 9-dragon bloodline, he seemed to be able to see countless Dragon Qi rising into the sky from the glacier valley and the snow mountain in the distance. In the huge canyon, there was a lot of weak Dragon Qi. However, behind the canyon, in the vast snow mountain, there was some shocking Dragon Qi. Lu Ming was like an ant in front of it. Boom! A terrifying pressure pressed down on Lu Ming. His expression changed drastically, and he could not help but take a few steps back. He quickly retracted his senses. So powerful. That aura far surpasses that of an emperor. Is that the aura of a saint? Lu Ming's heart was in turmoil. There were definitely saints in Dragon God Valley, and there was more than one. Chapter 1394. 1394 Chapter 1394 Chiu Siblings. The burly elder, Long Yuan Chuan, glanced at Lu Ming and said, "There are many experts in the valley. You'd better not use your bloodline to sense it, or you'll only be asking for trouble." Lu Ming smiled wryly. The rest of the people had looks of respect on their faces. It was obvious that Lu Ming was not the only one who sensed the aura in the snow mountain ahead through his blood meridian. The disciples recruited by Dragon God Valley were all geniuses who had awakened the true dragon bloodline. They could easily sense each other. The group continued to fly forward. It's so cold. After flying into the huge glacier valley, the temperature dropped even more. Moreover, the temperature was getting lower and lower as they went further in. Lu Ming sized up his surroundings as he flew. The glacier valley was huge. The walls on both sides were tens of thousands of feet high. On the walls, one could see houses and palaces carved out of ice. However, Most of them were cave abodes, which were excavated from the walls of the glacier. Moreover, on both sides of the canyon, there were some side valleys. It was like a main vein that extended into some side valleys. Some people also lived in these side valleys. After flying for more than 10 minutes, the burly old man led them into a side valley. On both sides of the side valley, there were many cave abodes. At a glance, there were at least thousands of them. Many of the cave abodes were already occupied. As if sensing someone's arrival, people walked out of some cave abodes. They were all very young and were of the same generation as Lu Ming and the others. What a strong cultivation! Lu Ming sensed the cultivation of these people and his pupils constricted. Supreme martial artist. These young men were all supreme martial artists. However, Lu Ming was immediately relieved. The cultivation environment here was too good. It was many times better than the Divine Ruins continent group. Even a pig could cultivate to the martial king realm or even the third spiritual god realm here, not to mention those peerless geniuses. Alright, you can stay here for the time being. The people here are the same as you, they are all newly selected disciples from the outer continent, but they came here 2 years earlier than you. Also, this entire glacier valley is only the outer valley. You are not official disciples of Dragon God Valley yet. You can only be regarded as reserved disciples. Only by passing the assessment can you be considered as official disciples of Dragon God Valley. There are still 4 months left before the assessment. During this period of time, all of you should focus on your cultivation. With your talent, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to reach the Jizuan realm in 4 months. Most of those who came here 2 years ago have already reached the Jizuan realm. Let me tell you, there will be a huge opportunity in the assessment this time. Other people will be envious of it. The higher your cultivation, the greater the chance of obtaining the opportunity. So, you must grasp it and work hard. The burly old man explained in detail. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. They were not official disciples yet. They were only reserved disciples. They had to pass an assessment before they could be considered official disciples. The standards of the big sects in the Yuanlu continent were really strict. At this time, the burly old man waved his hand, and a jade token appeared in his hand. On the token, an ice dragon was carved, and it was very lifelike. The burly elder waved his hand and the jade tokens flew toward Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming casually grabbed a token. There is a number on this token, which represents the ice cave number you will be staying in. You can check in according to the number. Also, this token is also the identity token of your reserve disciples. Alright, you should get used to it and cultivate. I will come back after a while to explain the assessment in detail. With that, the burly old man left. Everyone followed the number on the jade token to find the corresponding ice cave. Hello, brother. Just as Lu Ming was about to look for his cave abode, a crisp voice was heard. Lu Ming turned to the side and saw a woman smiling at him. The lady was dressed in a white dress. She had a sweet smile and fair skin. She was a rare beauty. Behind the woman was a young man in a white shirt and holding a folding fan. What? Lu Ming was a little surprised. He didn't recognize these two people. They should be disciples who came here 2 years ago and had just walked out of the ice cave. Since they didn't know each other, why did the other party greet him? Hello. Lu Ming responded politely. The young woman blinked and sized Lu Ming up carefully, seemingly very curious. Lu Ming touched his nose and was somewhat speechless. Lu Ming would not be so narcissistic as to think that a beautiful woman would fall for him the moment he arrived. Little sister, what are you doing? Behind the woman, the man with the folding fan was also very curious. Your bloodline is very special. The woman suddenly said. What? Lu Ming was stunned again. Brother, please don't misunderstand. I am Qiu Yingying, and this is my elder brother, Qiu Hao. How should I address you? The woman said with a smile. Lu Ming. Lu Ming answered. Brother Lu, my bloodline is rather unique. I've been sensing your bloodline for a while now, and I can feel that your bloodline has been suppressing mine. That's why I'm curious and want to befriend you. Qiu Yingying said. So that was how it was. Lu Ming speculated that the other party might have sensed his 9-dragon bloodline. Buzz. At that moment, the shadow of a true dragon appeared behind Qiu Yingying. It flashed past, but Lu Ming could still see it clearly. Qiu Yingying's true dragon bloodline was not a 5-clawed true dragon, but a 6-clawed one. It was actually 6-clawed. It was said that all true dragons had 5 claws, and 9 dragons were a variant of the true dragon race, so they had 9 claws. However, Lu Ming did not expect that there was a 6-clawed true dragon in the world. Perhaps, it was also a variant of the true dragon. Lu Ming made a guess. Brother Lu, my bloodline is a bit special. It's a variant of the true dragon species. I have 6 claws and am stronger than the average true dragon. You can suppress me? Qiu Yingying blinked her eyes and sized Lu Ming up carefully. She was extremely curious. My bloodline? Lu Ming muttered. As he spoke, the 9-dragon bloodline appeared behind him and he immediately kept it. Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao's eyes widened. 9 dragons, your bloodline is actually the legendary 9 dragons? No wonder you can suppress me, Qiu Yingying exclaimed in shock. Lu Ming smiled. There was nothing to hide about his 9-dragon bloodline. Once they started fighting, others would know immediately. Brother Lu, it's your first time here. Have a good rest. My brother and I came here 2 years earlier. We'll take you around in a few days, Qiu Yingying said with a smile. Alright, then I'll thank you in advance. Lu Ming cupped his fists and then found his ice cave and walked in. At the entrance of the ice cave, there was an ice door. It was activated by a jade talisman and automatically closed. The ice cave was very large and wide. It was at least 100 meters in length and width and 10 meters in height. There were ice tables, ice chairs, and even an ice bed. The temperature here was extremely low, so there was no need to worry about these things melting. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,